Hello, my friends, and welcome back to Soul Channel. I am so excited for today's episode. I think you're going to love our guest. No, I know you're going to love our guest. Soul Channel is a place for seekers to cultivate clarity, raise consciousness, normalize spirituality, and change the world. And we're so happy to have you here. So sit back and relax because the energy is going to be off the charts. I am thrilled to introduce my dear friend and my teacher, Ahlmeirah Ariel Hallaire. She is currently residing in France, and today she's going to talk about the pathways to abundance. Let me tell you a little bit about her before we bring her in. Almeirah was born in France and raised in Ireland, and she qualified as a medical doctor in 1994. She practiced in Dublin until 1998 when she had the most magical spiritual awakening. It was then that she understood why her life had unfolded the way it did. So she started working as an intuitive healer, as a teacher, and birthed several key tools to support the evolution of humanity. And it's one of these tools that drew me to her. And I attended one of her classes, which was, it was magical and it awoke something in me. She's incredible. She set up the Center of Love and Enlightenment as a vehicle to support the ascension. She is the author of a manual for walk-ins. She co-authored and channeled the Divine Healing Master Key System. That's the one I took, and I can't more highly recommend it. She works intuitively to heal emotional, ancestral, and mental programming and is the leading teacher of soul contract reading. She also teaches light body integration training. Almeirah's purpose is to remind people that they are vast, multidimensional beings, reconnect them to that truth, and bring in the frequencies of unconditional love through joy in the body. Welcome, Almeirah. It's so good to have you here.
Thank you, Teresa. It's very good to be here with you.
Well, I know from experience how amazing the healing programs you run are, and I'm so excited to learn about how you've brought in this information to help people understand what the pathway to abundance is. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
So, I'll tell you a little bit about how it came. So, in 1999, I had a walk-in, which is a soul exchange, and of course, it turned my life upside down, as those things do. And very shortly after that, I moved to the UK. I got married, and I had a baby. So there was a precipitation of my life journey, and I was struggling, I admit, after I had the baby, as you do with a newborn. You know, you're not sleeping very much, and you feel like you become a walking milk machine.
Yeah, I remember those days. Yeah.
And one day I was hanging up the laundry, as you do, because with a newborn there's always loads of laundry. And my guide said to me, "You have to teach about abundance because you know how it works." And I said to them, "Okay, I will teach about abundance, but first of all, I'm going to put everything into practice because I haven't. I've been focusing on looking after my baby."
Yeah. Wow.
So I didn't want to teach just theory. I wanted to teach something that, that I was walking this path myself.
Yep.
So I put into practice everything that I knew inside to be true. And rapidly, my life changed. We were living in a very little tiny house, and we were kind of it was a bit too small for us, to be honest, with a baby. And we were able to move to a nice big house with a lovely garden in the countryside, which is a much better place for a little boy to grow up. And the business expanded, and basically I launched myself. This was so, and I decided then that I would start to teach the Pathways of Abundance workshop. And I must admit that it's not an easy thing to teach. Everybody to some degree, well, not maybe not everybody, but the vast majority of people that I come across have some experience of lack in some way, shape, or form. And it's a
Yeah.
big issue. It's a really big issue on planet Earth. And but I found out how to sort it out, how to work with it.
I love that. So there's a couple of things I want to go back to.
Mm,
First, I want to acknowledge that you're not teaching theory, that what you are teaching is what you live,
yes.
which is vastly different than many people. And to me, when somebody says, no, 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 this is what I do, this is
Mm,
how I live, and this is the results that I've achieved based on this knowledge that came in for me and how
mm,
I've applied it in my life. There's so much power and authenticity and truth to that.
yes. And the other thing is that when you live what you teach, it's not just words coming out of your mouth. It's encoded in your physicality. So the teaching isn't just words. It's like a transmission.
Yeah,
It's a transmission that's coming from my body to the people's bodies that I'm teaching, so they can
yeah.
receive it physically into their bodies, and then they can live it as well. That's the whole point.
Then it becomes their knowledge, which is,
Yes, it becomes theirs.
yes, yeah. And I, that is such an important distinction to make because when you're simply teaching something you've learned by rote
Mm,
and you're not applying it in your life, it doesn't have that energetic vibrance.
no.
And that's so key and
Mm,
critical to my mind.
mm. Well, this is how I work. it's,
I
it's got to
know.
be lived.
Which is why I'm so excited to introduce you to everybody who's going to listen because there is an essence to what you do that infuses those who receive it, who are open to receive it, because it's
Mm,
free will and you can choose to receive it or not.
absolutely.
And when you do, all of a sudden your life begins to move in new directions
Mm,
that mirror what's in your heart.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, absolutely. Mm,
Okay. I want to ask you a question because what I have experienced with everyone I work with, when you hit those transition points in life, you talked about getting the information and making, and then you hit that transition point.
mm,
So many of us, because we're accelerating our evolution
mm,
and really raising the vibration of the planet right now,
mm,
so many are experiencing this transition and
mm,
are struggling.
mm.
Can you share how you overcame the challenges that presented in your transition? And I know we didn't plan this, so I'm
Mm.
sorry I'm putting you on the spot,
No,
but
it's
the
absolutely fine.
universe was like, no, this is important.
Yes. And this is actually one of the things I talk about in the Pathways group, because
Perfect.
transition is such a big part of our process. And the way I see it is that when we're transitioning, it's like over here, this is what was working for us. And then over here, this is the new thing that we're moving towards. And the transition is the bit in the middle.
Yep.
And of course, it's uncomfortable because we've closed some doors from over here, but we're not quite in the new space there. And this was comfortable, even though it felt limiting in, I've outgrown this. It's still a comfort zone, and we haven't quite reached that bit yet. So it's like a moving platform in between, and it feels like chaos.
Yeah.
And over the years, I've realized that this chaos phase is uncomfortable because it's full of unknowns,
Mm.
but it's rich with potential because anything can happen in this undefined space. So what I found works, because the thing is that you need support. You need to support yourself during this transition phase because it feels wobbly.
Yeah.
And of course, we have a base chakra. A base chakra doesn't like wobbliness. It
No.
likes things to be steady, grounded, organized. So the base chakra doesn't like it at all. It goes, oh, that's not good. So we need to support ourselves while we're transitioning in this in-between phase. And well, there's lots of different things that help. First of all, you got to really look after yourself. Look
Mhm.
after yourself physically. Make sure you eat healthy. Make sure you get the appropriate rest. Make sure you rest. Make sure you do your little detoxes if you feel you need one. Make sure you play. Make sure you exercise. All those important things
Yeah.
that we need.
Yes.
Secondly, receive as much as possible from the people around you who love you. So if it's that they're willing to bring you a pasta dish, receive. If it's that they want to support you by listening to you on the phone, receive. Whatever it is that you can receive, allow that. And I think it's not easy because we have been taught to be strong.
Yeah.
And strong means I'm not vulnerable, I'm not delicate, I'm not shaky. But of course, when we're in transition, we are vulnerable, we are delicate, we are shaky.
Yeah.
So it's about allowing the people around us to see that. And when people see this, they want to help. They want to support. They want to be, oh, yes, I'll introduce you to so and so, and I'll help you with this, and whatever bits that you need help with. The help is there often, and you just need to allow it to come in. The other thing that's so important in these transition phases is to connect
Mhm.
in whatever way works.
Yeah.
So, we need to connect with our higher self, or we need to connect with our hearts. There's different ways of saying it, but we need to connect to our essence. And of course, there's thousands of ways of doing that. And I think we owe it to ourselves to explore what makes us connect.
Mhm.
What is it that works for us? So in my case, I'm a heart-centered person, so I like to do heart-centered meditations. That connects me. But I know it's not everybody's cup of tea. Some people like to do zazen in front of a wall, very masculine energy. That's what connects them. So, we all have different things that connect us. And for some people, it's walking in nature. That's what connects them.
Yeah.
And for some other people, it'll be painting or singing or dancing or whatever. But that connection, it's through that connection that the guidance comes.
Yeah.
And of course, when we're in a transition phase, we need to listen to the guidance because that's how we're going to move out of the phase of chaos into creating the new.
Mhm.
And so that's why we need the connection to be able to listen to that little small voice inside that says, over here. That's where you need to go.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that because most people tend to self-isolate,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going through some really hard things, so I don't want to bother anybody, or
Mm.
I don't want to be vulnerable, or I don't want to share. And
Mm.
yet, that's exactly what we need to do is open up
Yeah.
to our community,
Yeah.
receive support, not do it by ourselves.
Yeah.
I think that's essential. Find somebody who can walk with you on the
Mm.
path
Mm.
and keep you oriented. And then that internal connection.
Mm.
So that external and the internal,
Mm.
when we're in transition, our guides are trying to give us so many messages.
They are.
And when we collapse in self isolation,
Mm.
we shut the door.
Yes.
So it's opening to
Mm.
receive everything that the universe wants for you.
Mm.
It's
Yes.
exciting.
And the the feeling I often have, because I see many people hesitating from letting go that old comfort zone.
Yeah.
Now, I was just saying to you earlier on, my son, he just made a decision to let go his relationship. And it took him 5 weeks. He was here for 5 weeks before he made that decision. Because even though he knew it wasn't working, there was a part of him that was like, you know, it's hard to let go.
Yes.
It's hard.
Yeah, it is.
Hard to let go what we know. And, there's love there, and there's comfort, and there's habits, and
Yeah.
there's no, so many things. And it takes a lot of courage to jump into that space of not knowing. And I always admire people who do it. But the thing is that there's also a fear. I think there's an unconscious, or maybe I don't know if it's conscious, but for a lot of people there's a subconscious or unconscious fear that I may not succeed in reaching my next ideal. I may actually
Mhm.
not succeed. I may just crash and fall into depression or get
Yeah.
ill or whatever. That can happen. So that's why we need to support ourselves as much as possible with the self-care and with the receiving and with the connecting and whatever we have that's available to us.
I agree 100%. Thank you for sharing that wisdom. I can feel in the audience a lot of people who needed to hear that
Mm.
and to know that whether it's internally our connection with our guides or externally our connection with our communities, we're not alone.
Mm.
And therein lies the strength of the transition.
Mm. And eventually, I don't know if your life feels like that, but eventually on the journey of growth, it's like there's always a part of you that's in transition.
Yes.
There's always a part of you it's a bit wobbly.
Yes.
And after a while, you get to be okay with that, because there's a quality that we need to nurture when we're in transition, and it's the quality of surrendering and letting go. And what I have learned over the years is that qualities are like muscles.
Hmm.
We go to the gym to exercise our muscles, but we can just as equally exercise our qualities. And there's something about being in transition that teaches us to let go and teaches us to surrender and teaches us to trust. And it's like, okay, I'm wobbly, but I'm still going to make that little step forward. And
Yes.
then that little step forward, it's like baby steps, and every time you have to trust that the universe somehow under your foot is going to put a little stepping stone. And then the next, and again, the universe puts a stepping stone under your foot.
So well said. Trust and surrender. And those are challenging because society has taught us to stay in control
Yeah.
and to manipulate the outcome that we think is the best. as
Mm.
opposed to leaning into the wisdom of the universe
Mm.
and receiving that which we may not see
Mm.
because we don't have the filters yet
Mm.
to create what's really available for us.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. So I think I started launching when I left medicine. That was in
Hmm.
1994. That's when I left my first big bubble of comfort zone. And since then, it's been hopping, 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 hopping. And after a while, you get to be okay with it. You get to be okay with a certain degree of not knowing. And it's okay to be in the not knowing.
Yes, because you learn that when you can stay in the embrace of change and uncertainty,
Mm,
surrender and trust, that something better is coming.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And somehow also the answers come at the right moment.
Yeah.
Earlier on we were discussing our books, our
Yes.
respective books. I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to do with my book, but I trust that the answer will come at the right moment. Just as, the editor came at the right moment, and then when it's time for the name, that will come, and then when it's time for the publishing, that will come, and
Yeah.
it's okay, it will come.
Yes. Yes. I love that. Thank you. Because I think just that nugget about transition and transformation through transition
Mm,
is hugely important for people to hear.
mm,
And of course, it's part of the Pathways to Abundance program that you're launching. That
mm,
makes perfect sense, doesn't it?
yes.
So tell us a little more about the program that you've got coming up. And it's in January, right?
Yeah, it's right at the end of January. I
Yeah.
usually run it in autumn, but autumn was busy, so it ended up being in January. So the first thing to understand is about what is lack, because if we want to work with an issue, we will need to understand it.
Hmm.
And it's an interesting thing, lack. If you think about it, the sense of lack comes from being in a physical body, because a physical body requires nurturance from the outside. So we need air that's coming from the outside, and we need food and water that comes from the outside, and we need warmth, and that also comes from the outside. So that thing, the very basic reality of being incarnate in a physical body automatically confronts us with this reality of possible lack. And very, very early on, in the first few days of being born, the newborn baby understands about lack, because it knows when mom is there and when mom's not there. When comfort's there and comfort's not there. When food is there and food's not there. And that's the programming of lack comes right in at that very moment. So it's completely in ourselves, this programming. But the beauty is that you can undo it. And you undo it, and the antidote to lack is love.
Beautiful.
Not many people know that.
Yeah.
But it is. And if you think about it, to the newborn, he doesn't experience lack when mom is there, when love is there, when he's held, when there's the breast, when there's the cuddle, when there's the presence, when there's the warmth. And that's the love. And so our whole life, that's what we're searching for. We're searching for that total love that's going to undo all that lack that was programmed in our systems.
Mm.
And so the 3 days of the group is all about that. It's about undoing those sensations of lack and replacing them with love programming.
Wow.
And of course, at an emotional level, the lack translates as fear. because that's what happens when we lack something. We go into fear. Oh, how am I gonna eat it? No, when's my next buck gonna come?
Yeah.
That's fear. You know, when we lose our job, that's the thing. That's the fear. It's like, oh,
Mhm.
am I going to be okay? Can I pay my bills? So it's about balancing those two energies, love and fear. And it's not that difficult to do, but it takes a bit of courage, because we've been taught to repress fear because it's such an uncomfortable emotion.
Yes.
You know, it makes us feel
Yes.
nervous
Yeah.
and shaky, vulnerable. So I do some exercises in the group, which is about facing our fears. And then, of course, when you face our fears, they transform and they dissolve.
Yeah.
And then the opposite bit is about welcoming the love, welcoming the love, welcoming the love. So that's a big part of the group. There's some vows as well in there, because
Mm.
um, the way the matrix was created. So I'm going a little bit esoteric here. I hope that's okay.
Yeah, it's perfect.
The way the game, what we call the game of separation, or the game of humanity, the game was set up. It's set up with different programs which actually come out as vows. And so
Mm.
those vows are encoded in the matrix, and they're encoded in us as well. So part of the work as well is we do some breaking of these limiting vows, you know, belief in lack, and belief in not enough, and belief that we're not good enough, and all of that stuff. That's a piece of it as well. And then there's a big piece, excuse me, which is around low self-worth. It's interesting because low self-worth is actually in the throat, and my throat is acting up right now. um, and we all have some low self-worth. It's part of the, you know, there's three basic programs of how this reality is made. There's low self-worth, lack of trust, or, you know, lack of surrender, and what's the third one? Abandonment and rejection.
Right.
So there's just three programs, really. If we boil
Yeah.
it all down, there's only three programs. So low self-worth is a major, major one. And for years and years, I was stumbling on this issue, and I was trying to figure out, well, how do you build self-worth? And it actually came to me in a very easy way. It came through my son. My son became my teacher. He was a good student. He's always loved learning, and at school, he loved going to school, loved learning. He was a good student until when he was about 7 or 8, and he had a teacher. There must have been some kind of energy clash between them, or maybe some past life thing. I don't know exactly.
Mm-hmm.
But this teacher, every day, she criticized him. She criticized his writing. She criticized the way he was dressed. She criticized his shoes were scuffed. She criticized that his bag was messy. She criticized the way he's done his homework. And within a few months, my little boy didn't want to go to school anymore because he'd lost his confidence. He'd actually lost his self-worth as a student. He felt that he was no good at learning. And so I asked my guidance, what can I do? And they said, the guidance came, play a game with him. That's what you do with children. You play games.
Yeah.
No point giving them a big lecture. Doesn't work.
No, it doesn't work. It doesn't even work on adults, let's face it.
So I said to him, we're going to play a game. We're going to sit at the computer, which already was a treat for him. You know, we're going to sit at mom's computer, and we're gonna play a game, and we're going to write at the top of the sheet of paper, Gabriel's gifts and talents. And I'm going to write something that you're good at, and then you're going to write something that you're good at. And when I said this to him initially, he said, oh, no, I don't want to play this game. All his low self-worth came up.
Right.
Oh, I'm no good at anything, Mom. No, I don't want to play that game. So I said, okay, I'll start then. So I started writing a few things, you know. Gabriel was really good at drawing pictures, 7-year-old things.
Yeah.
Gabriel's really good at jumping. Gabriel's really good at giving hugs. And before you know it, he was jumping in as well. And we did this huge, big list, about 60 items,
Wow.
printed it off, pinned it on his door. And I said to him, now every day you look at that list, Gabriel. And that was it. It turned him around completely. So I think the damage wasn't done too badly with him. It had only been a few months of, put down.
Yeah.
But most humans have had years of put down.
Yeah.
So of course we all grow up with low self-worth. Sometimes we have good self-worth in certain aspects of our lives and low self-worth in other aspects.
Hmm.
And through this exercise with my son, I found out how to work with it. It's simple, but you have to do a bit more work as a grown-up.
Yes.
You don't
We
get
have
it
a little
straight
more. Yeah, we have a little more on the low self-worth side of
away.
the
Yes.
list.
So you get this nice little copybook, that you go and buy, and maybe you decorate it or whatever, or it's got some nice decoration on it that you like. And you pick a quality that you have and you focus on it for 1 week. It could be that you're kind. Most of us are kind.
Yeah.
And then every day you write down a little bit about how you're kind. I'm kind by, I opened the window for the fly to get out instead of swatting it.
Yeah.
Little things like that. But it's the little things that are important.
Yeah.
Jesus said that. Jesus said, if you want to become a master, master the little things.
Hmm.
And focus on a quality once per week, one quality a week, and you write down every day a little bit about how you've noticed that quality that week, that day. And then the next week, you focus on another quality. Maybe you're caring. That's a quality you have. So you focus on that quality all week, and you notice all the ways that you're caring. You rang up your mom and you asked her how she was, and when you met your friend, how are you, my friend? And you listen because you care, and then you gave a session, and you gave a session why? Because you care, and all those ways that you care. And then the following week, another quality. Maybe that you're funny, and write down all the ways that you're funny, or all the ways that you've got a great sense of humor.
Yeah.
And before you know it, you do one quality a week. Before you know it, your self-worth will go boom, 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 because you start to realize, hey, actually, I'm not a bad person at all. Look at all these qualities. So it's a bit more work than the sheet I did with Gabriel, but it works.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. It's simple. Anyone can do it.
Yeah.
And I think I agree with you. I think self-worth is the true epidemic. The
Mm,
lack of self-worth is the true epidemic on the planet.
mm,
And anything that we can do to lift ourselves up allows us to create that vibration within us so that we can then start to lift others up.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the throats are going to heal.
And then the throats are going to heal. And there's so much that is attached at the throat.
Mm,
There's so much going on in that chakra, in that area of our body.
mm,
It's our communication tool. It's
mm,
how we bring in nutrition. It's
mm.
how there's so much. And you think of all the, especially with women, the thyroid issues and
Oh, yeah. It's a huge issue.
yeah,
Yeah.
brilliant.
As you can see, I've got a little bit of self-worth issue when it comes to doing podcasts.
Yeah. And yet she's brilliant, right? Oh, I love this. I think you're, not I think. You're hitting on all of the key aspects that are so vital for people to hear right now. How do you
Mm,
transition your life? How do you embrace change? How do you receive support? How do you elevate your own self worth? How do you contribute to your evolution so that you can receive all of the abundance that the universe has waiting for you?
mm.
Magic, right?
Yeah. And it's available to everybody. Everybody can do those simple exercises.
Or even better, you can go work with Almeirah at the end of January. What are the dates of the class? Do you have that? I forgot to grab it.
It's 3 days, so it starts on the 30th of January. So it goes 30th, 31st, and 1st of Feb.
Perfect.
Mm.
Bridging one month to another. That's
Mm.
symbolic, isn't it? What else would you like our audience to know today before we begin to wrap up?
I want to share this amazing meditation that I learned, which is about um, opening to receiving.
Oh, perfect.
And it it hits on a core level of programming, because for many of us, we have been taught that loving is about giving.
Mm,
You have to give, you have to give, you have to give. But if you give without being able to receive, what happens after a while is you get all dried up, and that's where you get sick or get burnout or
yeah.
become sarcastic and disillusioned with the world. And so this thing of learning to receive is it's a key. Literally, it's a key on the journey of growth. And it's a very simple meditation. I'm going to demonstrate it, and then we can do it together for a few moments.
That would be
So
lovely.
it's a heart meditation. So the heart is the center for giving. That's why we women have got breasts here. And it's also the center for receiving. We give love and we receive love here. So the meditation, I'll describe it first, and then I'll talk about the few bits that can happen with it. So the meditation is very simple. The idea is that as you breathe in, you imagine that you're opening. And at the same time, you open your hands. Open. And then as you breathe out, you imagine that you receive, and you bring your hands back to your heart. So again, open, breathe in,
Mm.
receive, breathe out. So it looks deceptively simple, doesn't it?
It does, but already I can feel it. My hands are like, come on, I want to do it. Let's do it.
So a few things that can happen with it. Um, if you have some programming in the heart that limits your ability to receive, you may feel a lot of ache here in the heart as you're doing it. So it may be quite uncomfortable at first, kind of achy and tight and uncomfortable. And as you do the meditation, also old memories of when you were rejected may come up, and you may start to cry because you're releasing the rejection, because the rejection here comes into the heart. So there may be some pains, there may be some memories with some tears, and there may be also the mind going, this is a stupid meditation. That's just the mind.
Yeah.
There's a bit of resistance in the mind.
Mm.
um, so just to be aware of those issues. And normally, normally, I'm not sure the word normally is right, but optimally, it's good to do a meditation for 20 minutes. And the reason for that is because 20 minutes is a brain cycle. So if you can do a meditation for the whole of 20 minutes, you'll go through all the phases of a brain cycle for you. And then you start again after 20 minutes. So optimally 20 minutes. But if you've got only 5 minutes is great, you know. And of course, if you're going to be doing it for 20 minutes, after a while, your hands can get tired doing this movement. So you can drop the hands and just let that go. But you keep with the movement, you keep with the breathing and the intention to open and receive. And of course, because everybody's got a different size rib cage, everybody's breath is different. So some people have got really long breaths because they're 6 foot tall, they've got a big rib cage. And in my case, I'm only 5'2", so I've got a little rib cage, so it's shorter breaths. So it's important to go with the natural breath, not try and force it a specific way. Just go with what your natural breath is.
Perfect.
Do you want to do it for a few moments?
Let's do it for a few moments. I would love to.
Okay. Okay. So start with your hands on your heart. And you're breathing in, open, and breathing out, safe. Open, receive. Open, receive.
Wow. You can feel the tingles of love as they
Mm.
come into your energy and your body.
Mm.
And then for me, when I expand out, there's this deepening awareness of where love can be spread around the world. Does that make
Mm.
sense?
Mm. Absolutely. Yes.
What a simple yet profound practice.
Mm. And it's the antidote to burnout.
Well, it's funny you say that because what was dropping into my mind was, gosh, I sure could have used this when I was working in corporate America.
Mm.
And, you get to the end of the day and you're just exhausted. You're done. You're tapped out.
Mm.
So, what a phenomenal way to fill yourself.
Mm.
And I'm going to take this a step further. What if we taught our children how to do this at a young
Mm.
age? They
Yes.
learned how to self-resource love
Mm.
and to care for themselves.
I agree. Mm.
Thank you, Almeirah. That
Mm.
was incredibly beautiful. And I know that it's new for me, so it's a tool that I will cherish in my toolbox.
Well, thank you so much, Teresa, for inviting me tonight.
It
Uh,
was magical, as I knew it
it was
would be,
magic.
my friend.
Yes.
And I want everyone to know that all the links to find Almeirah will be in the notes section. Um, you can go to the Center of Love and Enlightenment and learn more about what she's doing and how to work with her. And I encourage you to reach out. You're loved. And I am so grateful to you, Almeirah. Thank you.
Thank you, Teresa.
And thank you to everyone watching. I hope you
Mm,
receive all the beautiful love and all the energy, transmissions, and the codes and the information that is coming through this episode. You're
mm,
loved, and we'll see you soon.
mm.